Welcome back to F160. We're looking at lesson 2 from topic area 1, which is types of operating system. So what do you need to know? You need to know the 3 types, which are network, open OS and proprietary, know how they work, the good and bad points, what kind of devices, and what requirements you need to consider when choosing one of these operating systems. So first things first, what is an operating system? It's system software that manages your hardware and software. To put it simply, without an operating system, you wouldn't be able to use your computer. Examples are Windows, Android, Linux, Mac OS, iOS. You probably use a lot more than that. So we have the user. They're going to interact with the software through the interface. The interface is a part of that software, part of the operating system that allows you to interact with it. The host operating system, that is going to be the sort of thing that the interface runs on. A part of the operating system has a thing called a kernel, which manages those hardware resources, and you have the hardware itself, which is going to talk to the kernel. So that's your CPU, your RAM, hard drive, that kind of thing. All these things together sort of work in a stack. The user can only interact with the interface. The kernel can only interact with the hardware and the operating system, for example. So we've got a network operating system. So it's designed to run on a network. So multiple computers, at least 2, connected together. So you can share resources, you have more control over authentication, you can send things, communicate really easily, and you have network administration. The good points, you've got a central server that's going to provide the stability and the security, and it can send updates to all of the computers on the network. However, it's expensive, you might have maintenance costs, and not all software is going to work with a network operating system because it won't have been designed for that. An open operating system is open source, which means you can edit the code, you can modify it for your own use under a special license. So it allows people to work together to tailor functionality or make something better or worse using code. The good things for that is that it's free. You've got lots of people working together, so there's lots of community support, and you can modify the operating system to your needs. However, you need to be able to know how to do that, such as programming, being able to configure with kernels and things like that. So if you're not very technical, you may not be able to do it. Compatibility can be an issue, and there's going to be no formula support. You can't ring a number and ask for help because it's been made by lots of people, all collaborating, usually across the internet. So what is proprietary? That is where it is paid for, you can't see the source code, and it's owned by a company such as Apple, such as Microsoft. Advantages, they're usually easy to use because they're made for lots of people, there's lots of money put into them, lots of support, so they're usually quite user friendly. You've got phone numbers you can ring, you've got email addresses, forums, all can help you if you need support, and they're usually optimized for types of computer. For example, really low level, not very powerful laptops such as netbooks have special versions of Windows you can use. Disadvantages though, you can't customize them that you can an open operating system. Licensing fees, you're going to have to pay for it. Even if it comes free with your hardware, you might have to pay for something or pay for more features. And then it's closed development, so you can't change anything, you can't tinker with any of the code or anything like that. So client requirements. So when you're choosing an operating system, you need to think about the compatibility, performance, security, the user experience, and the cost. So compatibility, the application you make or you're using needs to actually be able to run on that operating system. So if you're making a piece of software for Windows, but your client is using a Mac, that's not going to work. Performance, it needs to be able to manage those resources. If the operating system is going to be, or the chosen operating system that you're going for, is going to be too heavy for the computer, then your app's not going to run as it's expected. That's not going to be very good. You need to consider the security. Is it going to be better to use a Mac where they seemingly have better security, people say, or is it better to have a Windows PC? It's up to you. If your client is used to using a certain type of operating system, then you need to consider what their experience is like. You don't want to suddenly switch to Windows or switch to Mac and the X button's in the wrong place, for example. And then you have to consider that the business has to pay for these operating systems. So that's going to cost them money. If they're going to have to shell out extra money because you've chosen a different operating system, that's not very good. So for some example examination questions, We've got a company called UFit who are developing a smartphone health application to encourage adults to exercise by walking around their town instead of driving. And they will call their application No Drive. So one thing you'll find in the exam is that there's always some sort of scenario, usually as short as this, and it develops as the questions go through. Some example questions then. Identify one type of operating system that they could run it on, one reason why you've chosen that type of operating system, and list 3 types of operating system. So I'm going to give you 6 minutes, so pause the video, give these a little bit of a go, and the answers are going to follow. So for the answers, the 3 types are network, proprietary, and open, so you can tick those off. One type of operating system, I've gone for proprietary or open. Network doesn't really make sense, so open could be Android, proprietary could be iOS. What is my reasoning? So if it's going to be used on a smartphone or a wearable that has proprietary software on, it needs to be able to run on that proprietary operating system. It might not have a specific system, so it might need to be designed for an open one like Android or something else. And there we go. Nice and easy. Make sure you are filling your notes. Make sure you are looking over the video again. Rack those views up if you need to. And I'll see you in the next video for lesson 3. Please make sure you've liked, subscribed, and we'll see you in the next one.